Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the keynote address for the 2015 Jesuit Heritage Week here at Georgetown School of Foreign Service in Qatar. My name is Rebecca Barr, and I am one of the Student Development Officers here at SFS-Q. This year, I've had the opportunity to work with my colleague, Indi Tatawatege, in leading the Jesuit Heritage Week Planning Committee, and tonight it is my great pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker, Father Victor Assouad. First, though, I would like to give a little bit of background on Jesuit Heritage Week. Jesuit Heritage Week is an annual week-long celebration of Georgetown's Jesuit heritage, values, and identity. Based on an ongoing tradition from Georgetown's main campus in Washington, D.C., Jesuit Heritage Week here in Qatar provides students, faculty, staff, and the wider community the opportunity to explore our Georgetown identity in the context of our Middle East location and our uniquely diverse student body. The week is filled with a wide variety of special events that celebrate the history and identity of Georgetown University. This year's theme for Jesuit Heritage Week is Educating the Whole Person, which is one of the core Jesuit values. During the week, we are exploring this theme through a variety of events, discussions, interfaith prayers, and dialogues. Let me offer you a quick anecdote before I introduce Father Victor. When I arrived on Georgetown's other campus in Washington, D.C. as an eager first-year student, I must admit to you all that I knew very little about Georgetown's Jesuit heritage. During my first week on campus, I participated in what is called a Sacred Spaces Tour, a guided walk around the campus to visit the different churches, chapels, prayer rooms, and reflection spaces used for students of various faiths. Along the way, we spoke with different religious leaders in each space. Whether we were speaking with one of the Jesuit priests, the Protestant ministers, the imam, the rabbi, or one of the other religious leaders that we encountered, they all echoed the same values that the Jesuits identified as central to creating the spirit of Georgetown. Over my 4 years there, I developed a great appreciation for the way these values profoundly shaped my Georgetown experience. When I joined the SFS-Q team last summer, I immediately felt the strength of these values in a very different context. The eager first-year students here on campus for their new student orientation were divided into groups, and each group was responsible for learning about a different Jesuit value and educating their fellow students about it. As I looked at these students of various faith backgrounds enthusiastically embracing and learning about the Jesuit values, I remembered my first days at Georgetown and how I also had the discovery that these values go beyond religious and geographical divides. It has been a joy to work on Jesuit Heritage Week here in Qatar and to better understand how these values fit into the context of Qatar and of the Middle East more broadly. We have a great opportunity tonight to hear from someone who deeply understands the role of the Jesuit history and Jesuit values in the region that we live in. We are so pleased to welcome Father Victor Assouad of the Society of Jesus to give the keynote address for the Jesuit Heritage Week. Born in 1959 in Aleppo, Syria, from a Syrian Christian Catholic family, Father Victor grew up in Beirut. He joined the Society of Jesus in 1982 after obtaining a degree in business administration in Paris. As a Jesuit, he prepared a license in Arabic and Islamic philosophy in Beirut and a master's in theology in Paris. He completed his studies in Madrid and was ordained a priest in 1993. From 1993 until 2001, he was in charge of the pastoral ministry at the Jesuit High School in Beirut, and then became in charge of the formation of the young Arab Jesuits from 2001 until 2008 in Cairo. In 2008, he was appointed the Provincial Superior of the Jesuits in the Middle East and in the Maghreb. He is currently on sabbatical and is preparing to be in charge next year of the campus ministry at the Jesuits' St. Joseph University in Beirut. The Jesuit Heritage Week team and I are so pleased that he was able to travel from Lebanon to spend this special week with us. It is my pleasure to welcome to the stage Father Victor Assouad.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. I understand that you wanted this year to invite a Jesuit from the Arab world. So here I am. I'm really from the Arab world. I was born, as you said, in Syria, raised up in Lebanon. So Arabic is my mother tongue language. And English is only my third language because I'm French educated. So pardon me if I make some mistakes and I'm not so fluent in English, but this is the case. I know that a lot of people here also use English as a second or third language. And I also tell you that there are more Jesuits from the Arab world. I'm not the unique one. We are more or less 60 Jesuits now belonging to the Society of Jesus, and from different Arab countries, mainly from Lebanon, Syria, Egypt, but some also are from Iraq, and one is from Jordan. So you see that over the years we have had Jesuits from the Arab world, of course coming from the small minorities of Christians who live in the Arab world. I will come back to this during my talk. The Jesuit order, the official name is the Society of Jesus, as most of you might know, was founded in the early 16th century by Saint Ignatius of Loyola, a Spanish from the Basque part of Spain. But since the beginning of this 16th century, the Jesuits spread all over the world, or nearly to all continents. And, for example, the Jesuits went to the Americas while we were discovering this new continent. And by the way, tomorrow evening we will have the projection of a movie, The Mission, that shows the role of the Jesuits there in Latin America, in Paraguay, and Argentina and Brazil in this region. But also they went, one of the companions of St. Ignatius, who is St. Francis Xavier, went to the Far East. He spent time in India, in Japan, and he was about to enter China when he died. He was on an isle in front of China. So you see that the Jesuits, since the beginning, were an international order. Today, the Jesuits are around 17,000 in the world. When I say the Jesuits, I mean the religious consecrated. But in fact, we collaborate with a lot of people everywhere. And I'm very happy always, like when I see, for example, some of our alumni, or I am a Jesuit too. So of course, for me, a Jesuit is someone who did vows of, but it's very nice that people spontaneously, yes, I'm a Jesuit because he went to a Jesuit high school or university, or was in one of our centers. So I said that the Jesuits, since the beginning, had this international openness, and wherever they went, they invented maybe this word that what we call today inculturation. Inculturation is that when they go to a country, they try to respect and to understand and to study and to be in the culture of the country where they go. It was the case, for example, very profoundly in China, when the Jesuits went to this very big country. They discovered that before having to say anything, that they have had to receive from these people, They had to study the language, but not only to study they had to understand how these people were understood the word and all the civilization that was behind them. So since the beginning, the Jesuits had great respect to the cultures of the world where they used to go. And I think that this continues today, especially that we live in a globalized, pluralistic world. And this is our chance, I think. in spite of all the challenges that it brings. The Jesuits went all over the world. The Jesuits can do anything. They are they have cultural centers, social centers. They are counselors. They can be in the artistic fields, but they are mostly known as educators. In fact, they are very involved in education, and still, for example, the Jesuits run more or less 200 universities all over the world. In the United States, for example, you all know of Georgetown University, but in fact they run 28 Jesuit universities in the United States. In the Arab world, they are present mainly in Lebanon. I will speak of St. Joseph's University, which is in Beirut. So it's a little bit the Jesuit University of the Middle East. But, of course, you have Georgetown here in Qatar. And also, the St. Joseph's University has a campus, a small law campus in Dubai. And the Dubai authorities asked the Jesuits from Lebanon, from the university, to go and run the law school so that they can have for their public institutions lawyers formed in Arabic and in English. And we were very proud that they asked us this service. So I said the Jesuits are famous in education fields everywhere. Sometimes they are famous because they have very important institutions for what we call elite people, like, for example, Georgetown. But you know that at the same time, the Jesuits have always cared of popular education, taken care of popular education too. And today, the Jesuits are developing networks of schools all over the world, popular schools just for the people who do not have really opportunity to have a good education. In the States, they developed what we call the nativity schools and Cristo Rey schools, but also in the whole Latin America, they've developed what we call Fe y Alegría schools, schools of faith and joy. And in other, so today, the Jesuits have more students in those popular schools than in the classical institutions that they have. But in their classical institutions, they do not only give intellectual training for excellence. If you read the mission statement of the Jesuit institutions of higher education, you will always notice that the aim is to form or to educate the whole person. I will come back to this. Before, just to let you know about a little bit more about the Jesuits, I took this quote from Paul VI, who was the predecessor of John Paul I. Then we had John Paul II, Benedict XVI, and now Francis, who happens to be a Jesuit too. But look at how one of his predecessors used to speak about the Jesuits. He says, This gives you a little bit an idea. Wherever in the church, even in the most extreme and difficult fields, at the crossroads of ideologies, in the social trenches, there has been and there is confrontation between the burning exigencies of man and the perennial message of the gospel. Here also there have been and there are Jesuits. So these Jesuits are people on the frontiers, on the borders where there are difficult challenges to our contemporary world. So I was speaking about educating the whole person. And I was saying that in the mission statement of almost all our institutions of education, you can see that the Jesuits aim to form the whole person. Concretely, they speak of the academic side, the social and the spiritual side. Academic side is academic excellence. We tend to give good education, good learnings, but always we want them to be grounded in the social field. So, for example, and we want education that goes from experience and education that gets to transform our world, that goes to the service of our world. So everywhere we ask our students to go and experiment by themselves and see how the learnings, the knowledge they get can help the society to be transformed. We are not interested in forming elites who just reproduce themselves, but we are interested in forming leaders who will be at the service of the transformation of the society, of a more just, or having more justice. We speak about faith and justice. We say that those words cannot be separated. We speak of a faith that does justice. Otherwise, we say, if your faith cannot be seen in your works, it's a dead faith. So the faith has always to be shown in the works, a faith that does justice. So I take this quote from the mission statement of one of our institutions. We believe in educating the whole person, mind, body, heart, and spirit. I said education of the intellectual, social, and spiritual growth, spiritual openness. We think that the man always is open to something else, to the transcendent. And we encourage our students to discover this in their own faith, how their faith puts them, man is more than a man, is greater than a man. The more whole you are, the more you can contribute to the world. And this other quotation, I find it very nice. Jesuit education strives to give learners ongoing development of their imagination, feelings, conscience, and intellect, and to encourage them and help them recognize new experiences as opportunities to further growth. Learners see service to others as more self-fulfilling than personal success or prosperity. I think it's very true. And I'm happy to discover that here at Georgetown, Qatar, They organize travels. Students can travel. For example, they went to Northern Ireland and somewhere to India or to understand the places of conflicts and how they can contribute to the resolution of conflicts. So this is a word about the Jesuits and the education of the Jesuits. Now I want to say a word about the Jesuits in the Arab world. Rebecca told you that I just finished my period as superior provincial of the Jesuits in the Middle East and the Maghreb. So I had to reflect on our role or mission in this world. Of course, we can say in these countries where we are present, there are Christian minorities. And it's normal that we can be at their service. But this is not really what we want to do, or not, we didn't think that this is our role. Others do. For example, here in Qatar, there is a church for the Christians, and they have their pastors who care about them, who celebrate the sacraments, Mass and all. Well, it's normal. They come for the Christians, for the service of these faithful people. But ourselves as Jesuits, we always have thought our mission to be for outside, as we say, ad extra, for the outside, to be like links with others, to engage into dialogue. That's why we set up 3 priorities for ourselves, the Jesuits in the Arab world. I will go from one to the other. The first one is the work for dialogue, interreligious exchange, and faith sharing. We believe that we live in a pluralistic, globalized world. And we believe that in spite of the challenges, this is a chance for everybody. Because when you share the best that you have, you discover it again, and it makes you better. And the other in front of you, the different, is challenged himself to give you the best of himself. So that's why we choose every time to be in a pluralistic situation, to engage with others, to build bridges with others, and to believe that this will enrich or give us more wealth, all of us. I can use the metaphor of the salt. If the salt gives taste to life, but if it remains with itself, it fades and it doesn't help. It is worthless. But the salt is to be thrown into the elements. So it's the same. I think that our first vocation is to go, to exchange, to discover the riches the others can bring us, and to give them the best we have. So this is our first priority in the Arab world. Second priority would be to contribute to the building of the civil society. This came when, in this Arab world we had what was called the Arab Spring. And when all these movements began, we discovered that maybe we are able to use the social medias to communicate, and it was a means used for these movements, but we are not really ready in the Arab world. We are not really aware of what are our rights, what would be democracy, what would be freedom to think, what would be to have constructive critique. And we thought that we should contribute to the formation of civil servants or civil society, so that in our institutions, in our cultural centers, social centers, we build up this understanding of human dignity, of what the individual can bring to the whole society, how he can contribute himself and not be only a passive citizen of his country. And so that in our country we want really citizens who contribute to build a better world. And so we had a whole reflection on how we can help our students or the people with who we are related to really be agents of change in their own societies. And our third priority, we would say that it is to become agents of reconciliation and peacemaking. This is, of course, very wide aim, but I will tell you that for me it's very meaningful. We live in this region of the world where the three monotheisms were born: Judaism, Christianism, and Islam. And we believe that these are religions, heavenly religions. And we believe that there are a strong support for everyone. That what else for us can be more valuable than that our faith. And at the same time, when we see our region, we discover that we are in a region where there is so much violence, so much wars, so much misunderstanding between people. I know that religion is not the real reason for this. Politics, economy, a lot of things enter into consideration, a lot of interests. But religion is often mixed with all this. So we want really here to help, to say, well, our faith helps us to unite to the other, helps us to understand, to be open to the other, to serve the other, to welcome the other, and not to refuse the other or to engage into wars. So we really want, as Jesuits, to contribute, really to be peacemakers in this region, and to use our faith, our deep faith in God, so that it becomes a cement of unity and reconciliation toward the other. So I have given you the three priorities we thought that we should have as Jesuits in this Arab world. Now I want to finish and give you an illustration of this. How do we concretely work for this reconciliation in our Arab world. And I will give you some examples. First, I thought that it would be interesting to go to Lebanon, where we have this university, St. Joseph University. You can see here جامعة القديس يوسف رئاسة الجامعة. So this is a view of the university. This is one of the buildings, the campus of human sciences, and this is the campus of social sciences. We have a little bit more than 12,000 students in Lebanon. So it's not a small university, especially that Lebanon is not a very big country. So it's the second largest university in the country right after the state or public university. A word about this university. It was created since the beginning in the intersection or on the road between the Muslim and the Christian sides of Beirut. In this street, we created our campuses there. During the war, of course, this region was specially targeted and bombarded, and bombings came very often and destroyed. And one of our campuses, the campus of medicine, was destroyed 3 times. And I remembered that when I was younger Jesuit and the president of the university came to see us after the 3rd bombings, they finished the restoration, rebuilding the university, everything, the campus, brand new, and again, bombings, everything was destroyed. He said, well, how can I convince the donators a 3rd time that it's worth building it again? But I will do it. And I won't change the location. Everybody would say, well, go to a place where it is safer. Here or there are no bombings. You are on the line. He said, I will convince them, and build it again in the same location. And I think that he was right. And we always wanted to be a place of intersection, crossroads. At the university also, we have something that is special maybe. We stress very much on interreligious dialogue, of course, dialogue between Christians and Islam. And we have a school, famous in the Arab world, just a word, called IEIC, Institut d'études islamo-chrétiennes, Institute of Islamo-Christian Studies. In this institute, we have something very original, proper of ours, is that for every topic, every class we give, we never give it with one person. Let's say we speak about prayer. Well, we ask the Christians to speak about prayer in Christianity and Muslims to speak about prayer in Islam. So always double voice, everyone speaking of his own tradition. So this was, we began this during the war in 1980, and it is very successful today. There are other initiatives, especially the social work. We have a very large number of our students who are engaged in an association we call the Seventh Day. We began this when in 2006, the Israelis bombarded Lebanon. especially Beirut. And so we said, well, as a university, we cannot stay like this. We want to contribute to change, and everyone in his own field, medical, lawyers, engineers, and now most of our students are personally engaged in some social work in this association, the Seventh Day, to be in solidarity with the population. Okay, here you can see some of the Jesuits in Lebanon. You can see some faces, some of our youngest Jesuits, also the ones who study. Here you have the first one is a Lebanese Jesuit, Rabia. The second is from Poland. And the third, now Nebras, is Syrian. Here you have a picture that I took from our window, Father Tom knows, with the mosque, the main mosque in Beirut. We call it Hariri Mosque because it was built by the Prime Minister Hariri. And in front of it, you see a cathedral, a Christian cathedral. So you see this in Beirut. It's not uncommon at all to find this kind of mixture between Christians and Muslims. This is an initiative that the Jesuits took a few years ago. They wanted to have a celebration that will unite all the population. You know that in Lebanon, nearly 35% of the population is Christian, and the rest are Muslims, but divided into Shia and Sunni. And there are other minorities, like the Druze or Alawites. But we saw that all these faiths had a strong belief in the Virgin Mary, Our Lady, Sayyidatna Maryam. So we said, we have to unite and make celebrations and together pray and celebrate the Virgin Mary. And today, the 25th of March, it's the feast of the Annunciation, Al-Bishara. It's a feast day in Lebanon. Everything is closed, feast day for the whole country, and celebrations of Our Lady, and everywhere. It all began in the Jesuits, in the Jesuit high school that you can see here. Here you see our Superior General from Rome, Father Adolfo Nicolas, with the Mufti of the Republic in Beirut, Sheikh Muhammad al-Nuqari. You see him, and here you see the motto, logo of this encounter, Ma'an Hawl Sayyidatna Maryam, together around Our Lady Maryam. And you see the crescent, and at the same time it shows Mary. So we have celebrations every year. Here a young Muslim girl singing for Mary. And this, we always end the celebration with all the Christian and Muslim denominations united together and praying together. From here, these are the whirling Darwish. Yes, very nice. So we have very nice. And this one that I like so much. Well, this is the motto of the Society of Jesus. If you know, for the greater glory of God, in Arabic, Limajd Allah al-A'zam, AMDG. I go now to Syria rapidly, and show you, in Syria, of course, we live dramatic conditions of war today, but we are very much engaged in the service of the refugees in Syria. This is a photo from Aleppo, where in Aleppo, thanks to 2 soup kitchens like these, we feed every day 60,000 people in the town of Aleppo. And in Syria as a whole, we try to help 300,000 people continuously between the capital, Damascus, Homs, Aleppo, and other places. So this is under JRS. We contribute with 400 volunteers who help us. You see, of course, 95% of them are not Christian, but we work with them just to help the population to survive in these conditions. So you have, I took those photos when I was in Syria 2 years ago. Unfortunately, I didn't come back to Aleppo. It's the town where I was myself born, but I couldn't come back these years. So you see here JRS, Jesuit Refugee Service. And this is a group of our volunteers with among them 3 Jesuits who work with the refugees. From there, and I will finish with something more personal, but I know that you heard about it. This Jesuit that you see on this picture is Father Franz van der Loot. Father Franz spent more than 50 years in Syria. He loved Syria. He was at the service of everybody. And most of his time he spent it in the town of Homs, which is in the center of Syria. Then in our the place where we have our residence in Homs, our convent, it was taken over by the army called of Liberation, and the army of President Assad had a siege around it. But he refused to go out. He said, I have lived with the Syrian people while it was nice to live with them. I won't leave them now. And so he has chosen to stay under the siege during more than 2 years. And they were starving of hunger. And he welcomed anyone who would come and live with us, sharing the meals, sharing everything. But unfortunately, Father Franz, but he accepted this, was killed the 7th of April. Someone entered into our residence and killed him. But I wanted just to pay a tribute to this man who means so much to us. So you can see it here in the dining room of our residence with all these people. He was living with 200 people inside our residence, and when he was killed, very few remained. Some of them died of hunger, and he was killed the 7th of April. You see more of him. And this is a photo that we cherish a lot. And this other one. All of these taken a few weeks before he was killed. And, this is his tomb. When he was killed, we could not get his body out of our residence. It was impossible. So we prayed outside while the people who were with him buried him in the garden of our residence. But then we said, well, we're sure he wanted this. He wanted to be buried in the place where he was in solidarity with those people. I just want to finish now, in the 3-4 minutes remaining, I want to show you a small video taken by the BBC, and you will see Father Franz speaking about what he does. It is in Arabic, but with subtitles in English, and it takes 4 minutes.
هذا واحد من اختراعات الحصار لحتى نحارب الظلام. شبكة من المعدن وبقلبها شاش وشمع. هلا أنا متذكرة إنه اسمي شذا والشيء الوحيد اللي متذكرته إنه أنا أم ل3 أولاد ماني قادرة أقوم بواجباتهم بسبب ظروف الحصار. بنتي مصابة بالتوحد عمرها 13 سنة، وشابين صار لي 2 سنين ما شفتهم بعمر المراهقة، كمان أنا ما قادرة أساعدهم وما قادرة أقوم بواجبي تجاههم كأم. فدخلنا بالحصار ولا عاد قدرنا نجيب الأولاد ولا عاد قدرنا نطلع، يعني ما عاد قدرنا نقدم لهم شيء. هلا صرنا 2 سنين صاروا شباب تغير شكلهم. ورد موهوب بالعزف على البيانو.
بس ما بقي ولا كاهن هون.
نعم.
يعني ما بقي لنا غير راهب كتر خيره عم يرعى المرضى، عم يرعى المعاقين، عم يرعى
نعم
كبار العمر، عم يعيش مسيحيته.
يعني نحن بنعطي كل اسبوع بنعطي 3 كمشات ونص، فاذا هن لازم يكون لهم نظام انه ياكلوا بس كل يوم نص رغيف، بس احيانا بعد يومين ما بيضل في خبز، يعني قد ما جوعانين وقد ما بدهم ياكلوا خبز احيانا ما بيضل في خبز بعد يومين. بس شو بدنا نعمل؟ هذا الواقع. في وحده ختيارة بتاكل كل شيء بنهار واحد وبتضل تقول للعالم انا جوعانه انا جوعانه انا جوعانه، بس شو بدنا نعمل؟ انا بجيب لك كل يوم اكل خارج عن الخبز، بجيب لك كل يوم اكل، بس يعني بتضل جوعانه، شو بدي اعمل؟
هاي شويه بدار حطيناهم على السفنجه وحطينا لهم شويه مي واستنبتناهم وصرنا ناكلهم طيبات. يعني ما كنا نتوقع انه مثلا هيك يصير فينا، انه نرجع لحياه بدائيه جدا جدا جدا، انه نصير نزرع حتى ناكل، نصير بدنا نجمع كسر حطب من الطريق مشان نتدفى، نصير بدنا ندور وين في شويه حنطه نطحنهم مشان ناكل لقمه خبز. يعني حياه ماديه صعبه، معاناه. يعني البيت صار حتى ما عاد في بلوغ، ما عاد عتب عز دين النهار،
لانه ما عندنا دائما مي حتى نعطي مي لهالنباتات. بنخلي الاخضر يتجلى بجزيره السلام.
بتقولي ليش ما طلعتوا؟ نحن ما عندنا غير هذا البيت، ما عندنا بيت ثاني.
نعم.
بنفس الوقت وجود عنا مشكلة، يعني حالة توحد انت ما فيك تروح تتنقل من مكان لمكان.
نعم.
التوحديين اعتياديين.
يعني انا بفضل انه ليش العالم طلعت، يعني السؤال يكون انه ليش العالم راحت. يعني
نعم.
نحن هون بالاساس بيتنا. ده انا طبيب وكنت اطلع وفوت واحلق يوميا.
هاي صورته هون قبل الحصار.
بس الانسان بيزهد، يعني لانه بكل لحظه معرض انه يموت.
احيانا في واحد بيدخل بالباروري حتى يقوس العصافير، انا بعصب عليه لانه انا بحب العصفور وما بحب انه نقتل الحياه، وبطلب منه بإلحاح إنه إذا بده يجي لهون 100 أهلا وسهلا، بس بلا ضروري وبلا ما يقوس العصافير. نحن بنحب العصافير وبنحب الحمامات وكل شيء. يعني في زحل في شي 10 هلا هدول عم بيخبوا حالهم بشتوية، بس في منهم ما بيقدروا يضلوا تحت الأرض، وبما إنه في شمس مستمرة هلا عم يطلعوا من الأرض وبيبلشوا يزورونا من جديد.
هذا البيانو كان يتمرن عليه ورد، كنا ننام ونفيق وهو عم يتمرن، ما فتح من وقت اللي طلع من البيت.